just now, so hold on. Got my notes on my iPad. We're getting there. Almost. There we go. All right. How's everybody doing this morning? Okay, so not that great. Maybe let's try again. How's everybody doing? There we go. All right. So if you know me or don't know me, like Pastor Jason said, my name is Ashley Vaughn. I'm very excited to be up here this morning, and I've got a lot to cover, so I'm just going to jump right in. The sermon title is called The Gift of Desperation, and I know that might sound a little odd to you. So first things first is I'm going to go over a couple words, a couple definitions, because I'm a word person. So the first word we're going to go over is the word gift. Complement of Webster's Dictionary, a gift is a thing given willingly to someone without payment, as in a present. You see, I am a gift giver. I love giving gifts. I like getting gifts. If anyone is interested, I wear a size any amount in Target gift cards. But I'm a gift giver. I like crafting. I like making things. I like giving people gifts, especially if I see someone in need. And so if you have, for instance, if you have ever passed my husband in the hallway and said, gee, those are some really swell jeans he is wearing. Mm-hmm. Or if you've seen him here on stage, strumming on his little guitar, and you say, gosh, that is such a dapper button-up. You're welcome. That was me. Because, see, I may or may not have seen a need for him that he might not have been aware of. And so maybe I waited till he went to work one day and threw away all of his clothes and replaced them with something a little more presentable. This happened in real life. You see, but bless his heart. His ensemble was interesting, But also, he's the type that won't get rid of stuff, won't throw stuff away. It could have holes, it could have stains, and he'll justify it in some way that it's still good. He could have a long sleeve shirt with the whole sleeve missing, and he would be like, this shirt is fine. This is my hot arm anyway. How this arm gets hot. This one's cold, so it's air conditioning. It's fine. He will justify holding on to stuff, and so I presented him with a new wardrobe. The other word I want to go over is the word desperation. And this means a state of despair, typically one that results in rash or extreme behavior. And so these are two words that you're probably thinking they don't associate together very well, gift and desperation. But hopefully by the end of this message, you guys will see that they actually go hand in hand. So if you have your Bibles or you have your Bible app, if you want to pull them out, we're going to be talking about 2 Kings 5. And before we get there, has anyone seen the movie The 33? You guys know about the movie The 33? It actually comes from a book called The Deep Down Dark. And basically what it's about is it's about the Chilean miners that were trapped down in the mine for 69 days back in 2010. You guys remember that happening, right? And so newspapers said that there was a 2% chance of survival. 2%. And so the miners knew that there was almost no chance of them surviving. They had 98% working against them. And so they, in the deep down dark, they just, there was no hope. All hope was gone. They did what all of us do when we lose hope. And they thought about their lives and their marriages, their relationships, their regrets, their mistakes, their dreams. There was a man down in the mine, and his name was Jose Enriquez. He was a Christian, and all of the other miners knew that he was a Christian, and so they asked him to pray for them. And he said, you know what, we're in this together, so I will pray for you, but every single one of you have to get down on your knees with me, and I'll pray for us, and we'll pray together. And so what happened is, because of their desperation, men that had no relationship with God, never reached out to God before, said, I'm going to get on my knees in this mine, And I'm going to pray with you, and you're going to pray with me. And all of a sudden, revival started breaking out. And the men down in the mine, every single one of them got saved. Every single one of them got saved. They started to confess sin. They started to worship. There was preaching every day down in the deep down dark. And worship broke out. Can you imagine how passionate that worship must have been? And that's because desperation gives us the ability to do what otherwise we're just not interested or we just don't have time for. Desperation causes us to be completely open, and God is drawn to the desperate. Revival broke out in the deep down dark because God is drawn to desperation. Desperation isn't composed. It isn't thought out. It's raw. It's real. Being desperate down in the deep down dark, we're open to deliverance because we're open to whatever it takes. Hearing the word cancer or I don't love you anymore or I'm sorry they didn't make it or you can't. Or you won't. Where's the gift in that? It doesn't seem like there's any gift in that. No one wants that gift. But sometimes God has a gift for us that we can only receive when we're in the deep down dark. You see, the deep down dark is something that I am very familiar with myself. I've been there several times, and I'm certain that I'll be there again. One of the times that I can recall was before me and my husband became Christ followers. We got married on our 10-year anniversary, and almost 2 months after our wedding, we found ourselves sitting on top of all of my belongings stacked up in the foyer of my apartment, crying and arguing with each other, and I had contacted a divorce lawyer, and that was going to be that. And I was absolutely heartbroken because I felt like I was losing and I was giving up everything. Not only my husband and the man of my dreams, the love of my life, but also my very best friend, the person that I grew up with, my home, everything. I felt like everything was being snatched away from me, and that's because he was constantly failing me, and I was constantly failing him, and we were constantly failing ourselves because there was something missing in our lives, and we kept replacing it with negative coping skills, and there was something, there was a God-sized hole that we were trying to fill with the world and anything and everything but him. And we sat there on top of all of my stuff, and I was ready to walk out the door, and we decided that this can't be it. This can't be it, that we're not going to give up. But we know for absolute certain that if we're going to stay together, that God has to be a part of us individually, but together. That he has to be a part of our marriage. And so we started coming to church. We came to a church called Home. We got saved. We got water baptized. We started serving. My husband's playing on the worship team. Here I am on the platform, so blessed. And every single thing in our lives, I mean everything, down to our jobs, to our house, to our friends, our family. Our parents started going to church. Everything is because of that deep down dark. None of that would have happened had we not sat there crying in the foyer of our apartment, right in the middle of the mine, right in the middle of the deep down dark. All the blessings that God had for us were right on the other side. Now, the miners had some success, and they started drilling, and they started sending them things, and they learned that their chance of survival wasn't just 2% anymore. And the desperation started to fade away. The sparks of revival started flickering out, and they stopped praying, and they stopped worshiping. And don't get me wrong, it's good news because they were going to live, right? But it's sad because now it's not so easy to cry out to God. You see, desperation is a gift that no one wants, but everyone needs. It's a gift that no one wants, but everyone needs. We're either in the deep down dark right now, right where you sit. You're either in the deep down dark in this moment, or you just got out, or you're headed that way. One thing's for sure, don't get comfortable. We don't want to be there, but there is a gift there. God will reveal himself in ways like we have never experienced before. And so what I want you guys to do is I want you to turn to 2 Kings chapter 5, and we're going to meet a man named Naaman, and we're going to go through a few degrees of desperation together. And so 2 Kings 5, 1 through 4 says, Now Naaman, commander of the army of the king of Syria, was a great and honorable man in the eyes of his master. He was also a man of valor, but a leper. The Syrians had gone out on raids and brought back a captive young girl from the land of Israel. And she waited on Naaman's wife. And she said to her mistress, If only my master were with the prophet who is in Syria, for he would heal him of his leprosy. We can imagine him first discovering the leprosy, not wanting to admit that it was real, not wanting to admit that it was him, that this was happening to, that it was always somebody else, but now it was him. It was a death sentence. Facing an enemy that he can do nothing about. And that's where we see the first degree of desperation, and that's awareness of a need. This is when something comes along that we can't control. And everything that we're trying to do about it, nothing works. More than we can handle, more than we've ever been able to go up against before, we realize that what we're doing just isn't enough. And naturally, what do? We try to hide it, right? When our marriage is failing, we post on Facebook how in love we are, or when we're sick, we still go out and we do the things that we were doing, and then we try to keep up because nobody can know, right? Nobody can know that we're struggling. When we lose our job, we start maxing out our credit cards because we need to keep up appearances, right? We got to keep up with the Joneses. Nobody can know that we're going through some stuff. So we see a girl, one of God's people, taken from her home from the war, and she sees the leprosy because she's in the home. She sees the leprosy, and she reaches out to his wife. Naaman tells the king, and he takes help from a girl who worships God, a God that he does not worship. So he asks for help from someone that worships God, a God that he does not worship. So he has become aware of a need. But the second degree of desperation that we see here is openness to godly counsel. This is when you realize that you need help. You're aware of your need. You can't do anything about it, and you realize that you need some help. At this point, we say to ourselves, we got to stop listening to us because we have been wrong. And it's a tug of war between desperation and pride. We've got to be open to godly counsel. We've got to be open to godly counsel because God's going to put people in your life specifically for that reason, to help build you up, pour into you, and mentor to you. And you have to utilize those people, but also be on the lookout for people that are desperate so that you can pour into them. It's not on the screen, but we're going to skip ahead a little bit in the chapter, and we see that Naaman gets the king to write a letter. It's an official letterhead. It's probably got like the gold embossing on the sides, like a presidential seal. It's really legit, parchment paper. It's super nice. And it says like that he must be cured of leprosy. Must. Like, I've wrote it down. It's done. I'm the king. He must be cured of leprosy. And he gives it to him. And Naaman also takes this huge entourage of men and chariots and horses and gold and silver. And he heads out to Israel. And his whole MO there is I'm intimidating and I'm powerful and wealthy and strong. But underneath all that, underneath all the fancy clothes and underneath the pounds of gold and silver and jewels and behind all the chariots, his skin, he can feel it cracking. He can feel the burden. And here, he's desperate. No matter what he's doing out here for this show, and here, he's desperate. He's going to Israel because he's desperate. He's aware of the need because he's desperate. He sought out godly counsel even though he himself didn't believe because he's desperate. So he goes to the king of Israel and he gives him this letter. And the king of Israel is all tore up and he's crying and tearing at his clothes because his predecessor was already killed by this people and he can't cure leprosy. And so he doesn't know what to do about it. And here's where we go to 2 Kings 5:8. And it says, "So it was when Elisha, the man of God, heard that the king of Israel had torn his clothes, he sent to the king. And he said to him, 'Why have you torn your clothes? Let him come to me, and he shall know that there is a prophet in Israel.' So Naaman goes to Elisha's house, and he asks Elisha for help. And this is where we see the third degree of desperation, and that's asking for help. When's the last time that happened? When's the last time we really asked for help? Not, hey, would you hand me that? Or, hey, could you bring that over here? No. Hey, I'm struggling. I've been clean for 5 years, but I used yesterday. Hey, my marriage is falling apart. Hey, my light bill got turned off yesterday, and I got 2 weeks till I get paid again. When's the last time that we genuinely asked somebody for help? What holds us back? Is it shame? Is it pride? And what happens is that starts taking root in us and stops us from asking for help. Sometimes it's embarrassment. You guys, I'm going to be really transparent with you right now. There was a time in my life where shame, pride, and embarrassment held me back from asking for help. You see, I got the really bright idea. I turned on Comcast On Demand and noticed that they have workout videos that you can watch. And I thought, hey, I am young and fit, close enough, right? And so I pushed my living room furniture back, and I'm up there. I turn on Jillian Michaels' 30-minute Fat Blaster Power Pro Plus. And I'm like, me and Jillian, it is on in my living room right now. We're going for it. And so I turned it on. And I'm doing it. Jillian's like, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And I'm like, and go. Go, Jillian and Ashley. And I'm really, I'm doing it. And I feel like, okay, I'm on at least solid minute 25. I'm sweating. And all of a sudden, Jillian comes over the TV and is like, hey, guys, wasn't that warm-up super fun? Now it's time to really get into it. And I noticed the counters at minute 5. I have 25 more minutes to go. I am really hot and uncomfortable. Let me tell you, it may have taken me 1 hour and 17 minutes to do the 30-minute Jillian Michaels Fat Blaster Power Plus Pro. But I did it. I went to bed proud, and when I woke up the next morning, I realized that the only part of my body that was functioning was my face. It looked kind of like this. And I was able to get to the bathroom with the grace of what I can only describe as a colt right after birth, just doing this, my knees giving out on me, and I get to the bathroom. I'm trying to, go pee-pee in the morning, peeps. And I'd like to say I sat down on the toilet. Realistically, I just fell backwards. Nothing broke, me or the toilet. It was fine. And afterwards, I could not get up. I could not get up. This isn't a lie. I looked down at my knees, and I had a heart-to-heart. They looked me right in my eye and told me, no. In my face. I looked in the mirror, the bathroom mirror. You're pathetic. And I went through my options. I was like, option A, I can sit here for the rest of my life It's fine right now. It'll get really awkward really quick, though. I can holler at my husband, wake him up out of his slumber, and have him come pick me up off the toilet, but that would just completely shatter every illusion that there was that I go in here and I brush my hair for 15 minutes straight, because that's what we do, ladies. We don't go to the bathroom. We don't go. We just brush our hair and look in the mirror. Husbands, now you know. That's what happens in there. Or I could just tuck and roll. I'm not kidding, I went with option number 3, like you learned, and would just stop, drop, and roll. Brought my shoulder in and just thunk, just 150 pounds of dead weight into my bathroom floor. Ripped my britches, had a big old bruise on my shoulder. It is what it is. I hurt myself even more. And I could have asked for help, but shame and pride and embarrassment held me back. It's a true story. Will you help me? It's not always a safe question, right? That question doesn't always feel safe, but there are people around you that are willing to help you. If you look to your left, if you look to your right, forward and back, we don't call this a church called home just for fun. We call this a church called home because this is home, because you're friends, but you're family. And there are people here willing to help you. The moment that we ask for help is the moment that our situation can change. Because how far do we let it go before we ask for help? Because what if they knew? What if they knew? What if they knew what was really going on? Don't let shame and pride and embarrassment hold you back from asking for help. Naaman, he shows up with all this stuff, just big and bad, to Elisha's house. Not humble at all, and Elisha knows that God does not roll that way. And so Elisha sends out a messenger and tells Naaman to go to the river Jordan and wash 7 times, and boop, pop right out. You're going to be clean as a newborn baby's bottom. And Naaman gets really mad about this. He's like, so Elisha doesn't even come out first. He sends somebody else. And then he tells him this ridiculous task to do. We see in 5:11 it says, Naaman became furious and went away and said, indeed, he will surely come out to me and stand and call on the name of the Lord his God and wave his hand over the place and heal the leprosy. See, he wanted a big show. He wanted to pay all this money and demand that God heal him, demand that Elisha do it his way. He still wants to come out looking like a hero, but that's not an option. A servant asked Naaman if Elisha asked him to do something really difficult and elaborate, wouldn't he have done it? Wouldn't he have done it? So why not definitely do this really easy task, right? And that's where we see the 4th degree of desperation, the 4th and final. And that's when we're ready to obey God. This level of desperation is where we're willing to do whatever God has asked us to do. And sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Go dip yourself. You've got a life-threatening disease that you're surely going to die of, but go dunk yourself in the water 7 times and you're going to be all right. Dust your shoulders off. Sometimes the things that God asks us to do doesn't make any sense. And I believe that God has asked someone right here, right now, to do something in their life that doesn't make any sense. Maybe it's talking to somebody that you refuse to talk to for years and years and offer forgiveness. Or maybe it's tithing even though you're having financial troubles. I believe that God is telling somebody here right now, bringing to mind by the Holy Spirit, that there's something that he's asking them to do. Something that may not make a lot of sense. Something that is going to flip the cards being in the deep down dark. Naaman comes to the river, just stark naked. His friends, his posse's all around him, and they see it. They see the leprosy. They see their master, their leader, absolutely just butt naked out in the water. You know. And they see this leprosy covering his hands, his arms. He's exposed, absolutely exposed. Any thoughts that his men had about his strength or his power are now gone. He goes out into the river because desperation has finally humbled him. He said, I will get naked. He said, I came all this way. I'll do whatever it takes. If God says he wants me to dunk in the river, I guess I'm going to dunk in the river. This is where Naaman meets God. It says, so he went down and dipped 7 times in the Jordan, according to the saying of man of God. And his flesh was restored, and he was clean. You know, this story reminds me of baptisms, and I think it's really great that we're baptizing some people today, because it's one of those things where God asks us to do something so simple, yet so powerful. So Naaman goes back to Elisha, and he tells him, indeed, now I know that there is no God in all of the earth except in Israel. Therefore, please take this gift from your servant. He tries giving Elisha all the stuff that he brought with him, still trying to pay for it. Elisha refuses, and so Naaman comes to believe in God through the worst moment of his life, through probably the most embarrassing moment of his life. But because he went through these 4 degrees of desperation, he saw a need, and he was open to godly counsel, and he was ready to obey God. He meets the only God that there is. Why does Naaman want to pay for it so badly? I think that there's a part of him that still wants to be able to go back and be like, yeah, I mean, man, I got naked and all, but, you know, it was really expensive. So, you know, the spa treatment, they pay a lot, and I wasn't going to mess my clothes up, you know. He still wanted to pay for it. He still wanted to come out on top. He still wanted to be able to go back and say that he bought his healing. He made God an offer he couldn't refuse, huh? He wanted to go back and say he earned it. But no. All he did was get saved. He didn't earn that. All he did was be delivered. He didn't earn that. Just like Naaman, we see that we can't save ourselves. Our sin, our leprosy, our deep down dark. We don't earn freedom. We don't get to brag about it. We don't pay for it because Jesus paid for it. We can't buy healing. We don't buy our salvation because that's why he went to the cross. That's why he died, went to hell, choked out the devil, stole the keys of death. Ooh. Y'all, I just get fired up. We don't earn it, but he loves us so much that he freely and abundantly gives it to us. He gives it to us. He said, baby, just go wash in the river because I love you. What do you need from me? Because I want you. We don't earn it, and he doesn't make us earn it. And we don't deserve it, and he doesn't make us deserve it. And we don't get to brag about it. All glory goes to God. The moral of this is that God saved him. That God saved you. And it's a humbling story because it's the gospel. I don't know what degree of desperation that you're in. I don't know if you're in the deep down dark right now. But I know today, if you are, today is the day to ask for help. To be obedient to God and to accept the gift of desperation and open yourself up to God like you never have before. We're getting ready to close out. And I just want to give anybody the opportunity, if you don't know Jesus, to take this time. And here's the thing. Heaven is real. And hell is hot. And one day, we're all going to be one place or the other. And we have a choice of where that place is, because God so loved the world that he gave his only Son so that we shall not perish but have everlasting life. He leaves the choice to you.